All right, men, we're continuing to look at the life of Abraham, who was a man's man. And we looked at yesterday at the fact that Abram, for him to be everything that God destined him to be, there had to be some things that he got away from. The Lord told him to get away from his family, from his surroundings. They were people that were idol worshipers. And as long as he stayed around them, he would never, if I could say progress, he'd never grow to be the man of faith that he ended up being in those settings. So sometimes you've got to get away from those things. But then there's another thing, and it's verse 4 of Genesis chapter 12. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. The second thing I see about Abraham as being a man's man and being a man of God was, number two, he obeyed God. You know, and that may seem simple and that may not seem real deep, but I'm going to tell you, men, if you want to be a man of God, you want to be the man that God has designed you to be, one of the major things you need to do in your life is learn to just obey God. Obey what His Word says. Obey the instruction book. Obey the things that He puts in your heart. You see, one of the things, you know, we sort of know the rest of the story of Abraham. We know the end of the story. And if you've been around church, we know the great man of faith that he was and that he became and all the great things, the example that he was. But he'd never been that example unless he learned to obey God. And he started obeying God. We know at this time about 75 years old. And as we read the rest of the story, we've got a story of him at 120 obeying God and great things happening there. Man, if you will start to obey God today, and the more you obey God, you will begin to grow in God and you'll begin to be who He destined you to be and accomplish the things He has for you to accomplish, very simply, as you obey Him. Is there any area of your life today you are resisting Him? I want to tell you, obey Him, because that'll get you farther down the road in accomplishing what God has for you to do and being who God designed you to be.